like a totally bonkers action movie that's a cinematic feat. Please cheer louder than that. So we're lucky enough to be joined by two guests tonight. The producer of Kill will join us shortly, but right now we are lucky enough to get to chat with the director, Nikhil, Nagesh, Bhat. Congratulations. I'm going to have you right there next to me. We can sit here until the beat arrives.
Thank you.
I still can't believe that this movie exists. I've watched it a couple of times over its journey.
You did?
Yeah.
You managed?
I mean,
Twice?
in all honesty, it's a thrill to watch over and over because you go on the ride the first time and then you get to look at these little details that truly seem impossible for an outsider at least to pull off while you're making the movie. So
Thank you.
it is something else. I highly recommend seeing it again, obviously. Let's go back to the beginning writing this. I got a big old two-part question for you. Can you tell us the idea that started this all? But then I also want to know if you had a break story moment, something you came up with along the way that signaled to you, my story is whole now.
Yeah. Not really like that. It didn't happen like that. It was actually, it was a personal experience. No, I was not robbing the train. I was one of the passengers on a train, and this was way back in 94, 95. I was traveling, so I was a student. I was going from a city called Patna to Pune where I was studying, and it used to take around 36 to 40 hours. So that means 2 nights and a day. So on one such journey, like in one such train journey, I was in one coach. It was in the night, and I was sleeping while the next coach was getting robbed. Good here. Yes.
Hello. Congratulations. Thank you.
So when I woke up the next morning, I found that the train had not gone to the, it had not stopped at the station where it had to stop. I think it stopped at some desolate village. And when I got out, there were a lot of cops all around, and that's when I got to know that the train was being robbed by 25, 30 people. And it went on for almost 4 hours. And they had beaten up passengers, they had stabbed a couple of them, there was a doctor, so I experienced that, like I saw that. And it remained with me, that story just remained with me for such a long time. And way back in, like around 2016, I decided that I should, it's too much of a compelling story to tell. And I wrote it that time, and then I forgot. Then this lady sitting next to me, she and I, so we know each other for almost 12 years. Yeah, I think you should tell that story.
So I produced a film called The Lunchbox, and thank you. And Nikhil was actually in the team of the financing studio Greenlight. So Nikhil had read those scripts, and we worked closely. Then he went on to make his film with the studio that I was consulting, so we worked on that also. So we've been attached and know each other just to directly work at the producer. And during the pandemic, I met him after the second wave when things opened up. After the first wave, when the things opened up, I said, let's explore what scripts. And he was talking about some of his other scripts, and I was like, I don't know, let's see, maybe what else? And he's like, yeah, there's one action film, there's one. I was like, what action? Oh, it's too much action. I was like, yeah, what too much action? So it's a train robbery gone wrong. I said, I know it. So we pretty much jumped on it, and he's like, it's hard to make. I was like, no, let's.
Yeah. So I said, no, it's very difficult to make. I don't think we should make it. She said, if it's difficult to make, let's make it.
I was like, let's figure this out, let's do it. So this is the film, kid. In fact, I always wanted to. I have done beautiful dramas, and I like to do it.
This is also beautiful.
Yeah. Like in this one, our studio that funded us is Dharma Productions, and they do the biggest in Hindi language rom-coms
Romantic film.
and romantic films and family films. So I remember telling them that they had recently come out with a film called Rocky Rani, and I was telling them this is also about family. It's all about family. The tagline can also be ours.
It's all about loving the family.
Yeah, so we did everything it took to pitch the film to the Burma Studios. He came on board, they funded us. Yeah, it was. I just think that it is a really, really good script. One is, just to see how Nikhil imagined it and built it as an emotional, high stake action drama. There was a lot of action written on the script, so he literally took a month, 2 months actually, to go and figure what all he can use in a train to create action. And I think
I travel a lot by train, so that's the reason why there's a chain, there's
fire is
fire extinguisher, and I used to smoke cigarette at that time, so I had like Zippo lighter and fuel. So yeah, personal experience.
I feel like it's a sign that you have the best type of producer in the world when you're like, this is impossible, and she's telling you like,
Absolutely.
that's why we should make this movie.
Absolutely.
If anybody got this video, please send it.
I am curious. So like you are all gung ho to make this really ambitious action movie. But now that it's done, and you could say this without adding any additional pressure to the situation. When you read that script, what were some red flags you isolated? Things that you knew were going to be a massive challenge to pull off.
Before she answered, she did not read it because it was unreadable. Yeah, because there was only action. I'd written it down, so it was very difficult to read. It was the most boring script ever.
So it was narrated, it was narrated with all, literally narrated to us. I actually didn't think that anything was impossible. I was actually curious on how. I actually, my brain doesn't work in why this will not happen. I mean, I think I'm wired to be like, oh, this is cool, but how will we do this? So it was more about the how and how do we put this together, and to figure out the funding, to figure out this. I think my only conversation also was with Nikhil, and I think he has done that across his films very well, was like, how are we portraying women? And I think that was the only thing that I internalized, and I was like, should we? And it was also with my team, and it was one conversation from the early draft to now where then Nikhil came up with giving the biggest killing, the city killing to women, the passengers, with the hockeys to the two women. And even how we do with Tanya, and like just while this is a heavy testosterone, action film, but how do we portray the very few women roles that we have, So I think that was very sensitive behind, and it was just a conversation, and Nikhil came up with all the solutions beautifully. And besides that, I think we went on a journey of building this the train model, because it was first 1 feet, then 10 feet, and then life size in wooden, then the movement, the hydraulics, and to make it the interiors of the train. So all those conversations, I think Nikhil, the DOP, and the production designer went on a science project, to be able to make this work.
Oh my God, I have so many more questions about the how of this all. But first, I wanted to make sure to touch on your lead actor here, because casting is important in any movie, but again, given how ambitious this is, that feels like an especially tough challenge to meet in this particular case. So what was it about Laksha that not only signaled to you he'd be able to deliver the performance you needed, but he could also handle what this production process was going to be like?
So Laksh is an extremely committed and dedicated actor. So I was supposed to meet him, and I was supposed to meet some 3-4 other people also for the same role. And I met him for like 1.5 hours. was just by instinct, I was like, I was, when I was looking at him, there was so much of vulnerability which needs in this character, and at the same time, there is that so I always say that, he's like a coconut. Hard from outside and soft from inside. So he's like that, and he's a man, he's a person with a lot of heart, and he almost portrays himself because he's one person who would go out to help his friends, and he's all heart as a person, and he's extremely dedicated. He trained for almost 8 months for 4 to 5 hours every day. Like there were no cheat days, there were no off days. He couldn't go and eat, chocolates and ice creams. He had to just hit on, like he was just, pumping iron every day. So it was quite difficult for him. And in fact, there's one particular scene when he takes off his t-shirt. For that scene, and we were supposed to shoot, like for example, we were supposed to shoot today. We couldn't shoot it today, and we had to push that shoot for 3 days. And he was off water. He was not drinking water for those 3 days because the moment water goes inside the body, it starts it gets really in the body. So he was off water for 3 days, and that's what he is. Like I was extremely apologetic. I was telling him, I'm so sorry, I can't shoot it today. He said it's absolutely fine. Whenever you want to shoot, I can shoot. 3 days he went without water.
You have the best collaborators. Like I love that kind of vibe, and when you find the people that you know are going to bring your vision to screen the best possible way. It's making me think of this question I ask a lot for both of you, and I apologize because there's probably a million answers to this, but just to at least shout out 2 people right now. Can you name 2 unsung heroes of Kill? We're lucky enough to talk to you right now. We just spoke a little bit about your lead, but someone behind the scenes who delivered big, and we don't get to talk about how key their work was on the film enough.
So without blinking also I can say that, there's my associate director, Rishabh. He was the backbone of this film. Like he was one guy who stood like so tall. He's actually short, but he stood so tall in the making of the film that, it's just because of him. Like, so there was a time because this kind of film needed so much of technical, and we were doing a lot of research. We were actually there was a hard prep of 9 months. Normally there is hard prep of 2 months, 3 months. We hard prep for 9 months together, and I was so involved in the process that one day I told him, listen, I don't want to know about the process now anymore. I want to get into the emotional side of it. You need to handle the process. And so he was my person. Like I would say that I completely banged on him. So he's like top over there. And you want to say, and my EP, Prasanna, he was also one person who was constantly there, and he was always, so he would come and tell me, listen, I think we're going a little overboard, but we cut this portion. And then he used to always come in the morning, and he was always like, bringing in me messages that, we should just finish this today early. And, normally there is a lot of pressure, but he was actually the person who would not give me that pressure. He was the person who was taking the pressure from me. So, like, kudos to him that, we had these 2 people who made this happen.
Those 2 people, you 2, and you all sat through the credits. So many people responsible for making these incredible movies.
Absolutely.
Specific scenes now. Big question for both of you. Going into filming, which scene did you think was going to be the most difficult to pull off, and ultimately was it, or did a different one catch you by surprise?
The most difficult was the recovery. Obviously, it was the most difficult because one, emotionally it was very difficult because one, I wanted a particular kind of a blood splash coming out when from his like plunging the knife. And the moment he would plunge the knife, the blood wouldn't come out. It would come out after 2 seconds. Or he's about to plunge in and the blood would start coming out. So it was a nightmare. Like I took around 17 takes, and every take, trust me, the moment he would plunge the knife, the blood would come out, it would fall on her costume, and she had to go and change the costume and come back. So every time it took me half an hour to take that shot. And 17 times I did, and after that I said, like, I can't keep on going, like, I can't keep on shooting that. And then I went back and I started looking at the takes, and I figured the sixth take was the best take. So, yeah, so I took 17 takes, but I used the sixth take.
Six take looked great, so.
Yeah, so yes, but it was the most difficult thing because it was emotionally very draining for both the actors. In fact, it was emotionally draining for Raghav also because he was killing it, and every time he was like, he was feeling, you know, he and Tanya have like the great friends, and every time he would push his knife and he would be saying, I'm so sorry that I'm doing this. I'm trying to kill you every time. So it was very draining for all three of them.
I want to come back to more blood and prosthetics talk because that kind of movie magic wows me to no end. But you just brought up the emotion, so I did want to touch on that briefly because I feel like in a lot of action movies like this, we don't get to see the villains get emotional. And you have a whole scene in one of the train cars with the bodies hanging where basically all your bad guys are in tears. Why was it important for you to include that in the film?
We are all bad guys, and we have emotions. No, so you know, I just wanted, you know, as an audience, when you're watching the film, I wanted your point of views, your emotional hope to keep swaying between the protagonist and the antagonist, because I wanted them to be very real. Because they are real people, and they're people who do not have money, and that's the reason why they're committing this robbery. And one thing goes wrong, and it just goes south. So I wanted people to feel for them as well at the same time, because I wanted them, because also it's the entire setting is very real. So I wanted real people, so the moment you start feeling for the antagonist and the entire family, that means it's something in you, it's touching you somewhere. That's the reason why I want to, I wanted them to make more human.
May not agree with much of anything they do in the movie, but I can feel those elements. So I think that was a very strong layer to include here. I'm gonna toss it to you guys in just a minute, but I want to squeeze in one more question here of my own because I heard in another interview you mentioned that this is the first extreme action movie to come out of India. So I'm curious because I just keep hearing the buzz build more and more here in the States. What has the reaction to the movie been like there, and do you think that maybe there's more interest in that film industry producing movies like this?
So we've been making action films forever, amazing action films. But over the years, we've also done a lot of, slow motion escapist work, where it's more about the antique, the cars, the slow motion kick, and so this.
Chuck Norris.
So I think this is really real and hand combat and real the how the blood flows. There's nothing celebratory about the violence, in this one. We're not revenge is not a piece of celebration. It almost makes you question in the end where it says that are you a protector or a killer, to a soldier. So that line is very thin in our film. So that, and given that it is, and you all have seen it, given that it is between 80 to 90 minutes of action in a 104-minute film, it is non-stop action. So yes, it is the most violent film India has ever made. It is the most amount of action. I mean,
In the script, there were 52 killings. Right now, I have 42. So I was way hard.
I mean,
That
you-
is the compromise.
That was a compromise.
I feel like you're heartbroken that the number dropped, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe you're gonna do more, cause you had mentioned making another chapter and turning this into a franchise, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, in fact, there is a kill in Nikhil's name. So.
You can't say Nikhil without kill.
So, you know how some people are born to do this, by birth. So I feel like it should be kill 2, 3, 4.
Overkill.
So, I mean, it all depends on, there's a lot of first time that's happening. First time for Lionsgate to become an international language film. We're so excited for Roadside and Lionsgate to be able to bring it at a large scale in US as its genre. We are trying to say a lot, even politically. Because it's a bunch of people unemployed, getting there to do robbery, and it's a thin line. It's all, everybody's on the edge of life with their desperate ends, and things spiral. So this is the first time like big Indian films also come out like in 800, 900 cinemas here, and this is crossing 1,000 so far, and the numbers, the growth like team has been so amazing, putting it out there. So we've sold the whole world. This is a full Indian production. We've sold the whole world with many territories. It's going to be released throughout the year in many countries. So even for us to be on this journey is a first. It happened in Lunchbox, but it was a very different scale, and that was also 11 years ago. After 11 years, this is the first Indian film that is going. Lunchbox is also a co-production, Indo-French joint. But we will see. If all the distributors also see what they saw and their audiences see, there will be demand to film to automatically. And that is the place we'd like to be, rather than us saying we're ready. We've done our work, yes, we'd love to make it a franchise, but now it's over to the audience.
So please go out and give it as much love as you can so that we can make it.
And no spoilers. Please don't give out the information. The midpoint in India, actually, there is always an interval. So there is always, like, people stop the film, every film is stopped, and then
They go out and have popcorn.
they all go out, you get water, get popcorn, samosas, and then come back, and then, you're ready for the second half of the film. So this one, the title drop was quite an epic point. So yeah, so keep all that a secret, let people be surprised. We'd love to hear from all of you. Every morning, we are obsessed with letterbox. We wake up every morning.
Every morning we open and like we see.
And we're like, okay, 20 more. Oh, where? The Sydney, there is a screen. So, we are obsessed with letterbox. We're so happy that, all of you are here and, watching the film early on before the release.
So thankful to be right here.
Alright, I think we're gonna have time for a couple of audience questions. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, because you were the first hands I saw, so you're up first.
First of all, it was very exciting. I was very happy after the kill came on screen, and then we saw everything go down. Very exciting film. Actually, I want to ask, how hard was it to get US distribution, and do you have to change anything in the movie for the US version, or is it the same version as?
No, nothing. Actually, we haven't changed anything. It remains the same. Actually, it's the same what we are releasing in India, and it's the same which we are releasing in the US. Nothing that changes.
Thank you for your question. I said, yep, you next.
Typical coach fight. How many setups in one unit is a typical coach fight? Would you say? And how many days on the shooting schedule?
So, we shot this film for 77 days, and the action we shot it for, like in the train we shot it for 64 days. So there were no two setups, because in the train there was only the challenging part was there was enough space for only one department to work. So we if the lighting department was working, that means the other department was standing outside. Then the prop department would come in and they would set up everything. Then we had a special blood department. So because they had to like put in a lot of blood. So then the blood department would come and do that. So every day that to set up that would take almost an hour and a half every day. So there were no bigger setups than the one main setup which we were shooting. It couldn't be because there was no space.
It's quite the process there. And you douse it all in water, and you rinse it. I can't even imagine. All right, I think we have time for this last one here, and then we'll call it a night.
First of all, thank you so much for making this film. I'm Indian also, and I grew up watching all those Bollywood movies, and I can't even watch American rom-coms anymore because I'm so tired of that genre. Sorry, I know you make a lot of those. But, so it's so nice to see an action film, and the bar is so high. Maybe I'm a little biased now, I guess, because I'm Indian, but I think I like this more than John Wick. Maybe a hot take, I don't know. I liked it
Thank
a
you.
lot.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, and then the question I had was, the arch villain also, he has a very sassy personality, and some of his dialogue is absolutely hysterical. The audience was like laughing at some of his commentary, right? So, how did you make that decision? Was that like going in? Did you have that impression you wanted him to be sassy, or did that develop over time?
So, funny, when I started writing, funny was very clear in my mind. In fact, I started writing, so there was a scene which is not there in the film. I started the script with funny's scene because it was appealing to my darker side. I come from that part of the country, and over there people don't talk straight. They just don't talk straight. They will, for everything, whatever they will speak, they will have some kind of a humor laced in. And that's how this guy is. Like, his weapon is unpredictability. And that's how he keeps dangling in at one moment he's extremely charming, and the second moment he's absolutely ice cold. So he is that guy, and right from the very beginning, while writing the script, it was there in my mind, and just to be, so almost all his lines have been written by a girl. So yeah, so that's how he's extremely cocky, and yeah.
So the script was started with funny.
Yeah.
So it was pitched also with this character who's so colorful and what happened and so unpredictable. We auditioned around 100 plus boys, 150 to 200 boys, like literally a lot of boys. I think it was at least 150 boys. And Raghav stood up in the audition. So he's come straight from the audition. And he's come after testing many clips, seeing people internalize this cheeky comedy villain, this very colorful personality. And Raghav actually, to everybody who's not from India, he's one of the biggest in India. He's one of the biggest reality TV show host. So he goes into everybody's house, like in reality TV goes into everybody, checks in, goes watch those episodes every night. So he's a very, very big comedy dance reality host, and everybody in India knows him as like the funny next door guy, and he stopped playing reality TV for a couple of years, trained himself deeply to be an actor, and he's coming up as a villain. So Indian journalists have often asked us, how on this earth have you taken the funniest guy on TV and given him this role? But he was so good in the audition.
He was very good.
So it just came out of a pure acting talent.
Perfect example of an actor who very clearly makes the character his own in a way that nobody would have brought that character to life quite like he did.
And he's a great dancer, and it's a very strange thing. Like he would, yeah. So I'm just saying. So when he would start doing action, he would say 4, 5, 6, 7, and then he would start. So he would really do that because he's so right bang on in rhythm, and actually no one would do
No, for sure, there's so much crossover there. Talk about the movie for hours and hours and hours. We're not allowed to, before this gets drowned out with applause, I'll just reiterate something we've already brought up. If you like this movie, talk about it. The only way we can get more of what we love and more of what is so damn good is if we spread the word and everybody checks it out. So tell everybody you know about Kill, congratulations, this movie is something else.